Hey, what's good, everybody? It's your boy JC. Welcome back to another Smash Edit. Now, I know it's been a while since the last one that I made, over a year ago. The reason I haven't uploaded so long is because, you know, my personal life has been absolutely hectic. School has kept me very busy. I'm about to start college in a few months, so there you go. But, I've had a lot more time to myself recently. So if that's anything to go by, then I should have more time to upload, and you guys should have more content. So, get excited for that. I've had a lot of characters and videos sitting in my backlog anyway that I've been meaning to upload for the past, year or so. So yeah. Case in point, actually, the Boyfriend from Friday Night Funkin. Boyfriend is a character that I remember wanting to make for a really long time. That started in 2021, back when the game first peaked in its popularity. I remember really enjoying the game, but I also remember that around the time, mods were, had exploded in popularity. The game was getting constant updates. You know, the community was at, an all-time high. And I also remember, very specifically, at the time that Team Destination had made a Pico render based on his design from FNF. So I remember seeing everything, and I was like, wow, I want to jump on that bandwagon, you know? I want to honor this game too. This game that I really like. So I did actually start working on a Boyfriend Smash render using the models by Cali 3D. I'll put that up on screen. I only made a brief mock-up. I never actually got any further than this, unfortunately. Because around the time that I started making this, my family and I were also preparing to move to a brand new house. And so I couldn't edit for a while. And when I did finally come back to edits, I shifted my priorities to Mickey and Oswald because the anniversary of Mickey was coming up very soon. So yeah, I didn't get to work on Boyfriend for a little while. I did eventually come back to him 2 years later though, in 2023, which is actually where all this footage is from. So yeah, with all that said, let's get into the process a little bit. Now this process was actually really interesting, at least I would say. I opted not to use the Cali 3D model, just because at the time I didn't really like the idea of using fan-made models. I preferred to either use an official model or something that I made myself, you know? And since Boyfriend doesn't have any official model, and I didn't have the figure to reference yet, I ended up making my own in Procreate. When making that base model, or that base render, I referenced a few key aspects, or a few key things. His sprite, his loading screen art, and his Nendoroid figure. The loading screen I referenced very, very heavily for things like his proportions and whatnot. Because this is just a personal thing. In my opinion, I feel like his actual sprite design from the game would be very hard to animate in Smash Brothers. I honestly can't see it working as well as something like the loading screen, especially when you look at a majority of the characters. The animations in Smash are very fluid, you know? And for a character like Boyfriend to have physical attacks or grabs and whatnot, I think his proportions ought to be elongated a bit, you know? For lack of a better phrasing. So, with that said, I look toward the loading screen for reference because that actually does stretch out his limbs a little more. To a pretty good degree, I would say. I think that's just the perfect reference for Smash. So yeah. And then I ended up referencing the Nendoroid because, well, just for good measure. For things like the shape of his cap, his hair, other little things. Even his eyebrows. I didn't want to give him the unibrow because I wasn't sure how it would look in 3D. And thankfully the Nendoroid doesn't do that. So, I have an excuse, Your Honor. But yeah. With all things considered, I think it turned out pretty well. In all honesty, I think it turned out pretty well. It was very interesting though, because like I said, I'm not used to making the bases myself. I'm used to using an actual model. So this was a bit of an experiment, and I think, yeah, I enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed this process. Now, I think it's worth mentioning that a little after I made this render, I think like maybe last year, that was when they came out with the official boyfriend figurine. The official one that from like the Funkin team that's based on the sprites and whatnot. And well, I did go back and tweak this render. Not a whole lot, but I did go back and tweak it so that it could be more according to or it could be more in line with the figure. Specifically his hair and the shape of his cap, along with a few other things like proportions and colors and whatnot. Mainly the hair. I customized the hair mainly to look a little more like Pit's hair. Because if you look at the figurine, I'll put an image on screen. If you look at the figurine, he has like, I'm not sure how I would describe it. But he has hair that if you look at Pit's hair, it's very similar. So I wanted to change his hair to something like that. Just so they matched a little better. But yeah. Not much else to comment on the process, so I'll leave it here for now, and I'll see you guys back in the outro. And bam, there he is, with his luscious hair and everything. Anyway, if you've made it this far into the video, I would just like to say thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in seeing more content like this, feel free to subscribe or check out the videos on the left. Of course, I'll see you all in the next one.